true science, not like the dogmatic science of whatever Fauci says. I'm talking about the real science, not popeism. Modern day popeism is the the following the CDC guidelines or whatever, the NIH. That's modern day popeism, Catholic Church kind of stuff. But real science would sit, are the scientists like Einstein that say, I believe in God because it's just too complex. You
Yes.
you can't fathom how complex this universe is. Real science says the human system is so fascinating that we can't definitively say any how a thing is going to interact with the human body. Like every human body is different, and that's why some people are going to die from a vaccine and others are not even going to notice the symptoms, or maybe the symptoms, the effects of it won't even harm them in the way that it can someone else. The same with drugs, the same with pharmaceuticals, right? So it's like we are trying to do this one size fits all notion to living, and this is a problem for America because America's built in individuality, not like wholly, because obviously it takes teamwork and cooperation. And I don't believe in this Darwinian conception of individuality, like extreme egoism of Ayn Rand or something. But individuality is such a principle enshrined in our Bill of Rights. And it feels like it's being written out of existence in this country. No?
Yes, 100%. I mean, you touched on a couple of issues that we here talk about on the show a lot, which is the perfectibility of man. It appears as though that there's a lot of people in control and power who believe that men can be perfected, right? And so if is there an existence of imperfections, that means we're not trying hard enough. We're not doing it hard enough. We just need to throw more money, more energy, more control, and then maybe finally we'll get it right. But as you said, the complexity of human life, the complexity of society and culture, you can't just push a button and expect one outcome to come out. I mean, the best that we can possibly do is tweak parameters and tweak maybe who's in and who's out, like the borders and the perimeters, and then just sort of cross your fingers and hope something good comes out of it, instead of this notion of being able to absolutely control everything all the time and make everybody better. Do you think that there's what is the correlation, if any, causation between like us just sort of feeling like we're falling off a cliff and then the absence of American spirituality? And like, how do we close that gap? Because we have taken away the guardrails of society, church, cultural pressure, socially enforced issues, things that were like had us going for a long time. They sort of stripped them all away. Now anybody can be anything at any time. There's no guardrails. There's no God. There's no institutions. The church has been diminished. If you're atheist, there's like there's no natural laws. There's no rights for men. How do we bridge this gap, sir? I mean, I think we're seeing a similar gap, and I'm curious. You seem to have done it personally, or you're at least on a journey. Anybody on a spiritual journey who says they've arrived is probably dead. But what's your prescription for America, man?
It's the same. It's the same everywhere in the world. What you just said about the desire to perfect the human being. You see, it's like that's our personal choice. That's our personal journey, I believe, as the human spirit incarnating through these forms. I have memories of my past lives, and not all of them, but I know I'm not from this timeline and this, born in '84. It's like, no, I know I'm ancient, and I have memory of other worlds, and I have knowledge of these things that no one can give or take from me. And that's what spirituality is. It's our own connection to our soul, right? At a fundamental level, it's connecting to our soul, because we can't speak of God, really. I mean, God is like, that's so transcendent and absolute. We can't even look at the sun for 5 minutes. How are you going to look at God? I mean, you can't even
Right.
you can't see the whole world. You can stand on a mountain, you can't see the whole planet. Like, we can't talk about God, and that's the problem people get into. They want to tell you what God thinks. It's the same thing that these transhumanists in power want to tell you. This is what a perfect human looks like. This is Hitler would say that kind of stuff. Oh, the perfect human is blonde haired and blue eyed, and grown from an Aryan blood race. I mean, come on. No one can tell you what is perfect. No one can tell you what God is. No one can speak for God, and yet everyone wants to when it comes to controlling other humans.
Right.
This is the
Indeed.
problem. And it's we've seen it in other countries. We've seen it certainly in totalitarian systems across the world, and it's coming to America.
Mm.
And that's the thing that's like, wow. And you so-called spiritual people are some of the worst offenders. The ones that are doing ayahuasca and going to Burning Man. I'm gonna go get the vaccine. I want to be safe. I'm scared. You're spiritual. You're really scared You're really scared that anything is going to take you out of this existence before it's your time. Man, if it's your time, a coconut's going to fall out of the sky and hit you in the head. Come on.
Right.
I'm just like, it's just you're a spiritual being. You have faith and trust in your purpose, in your connection to creation. What are you so scared about? So what, you need someone to tell you that you can operate now freely and be a safe person, because you're safe because you've been taking a vaccine or whatever it may be. This is giving away power. This is waiting for the authority. And as I said before, scientific dictatorship. In other countries, it's, religious dictatorship or, statism, absolute control from the state. So now it's what? Scientific dictatorship. Science is going to tell me what, when I'm okay, when I'm perfect.
Right.
No.
Now they're going to tell us when my kids are good enough to hang out with other kids, right? Like my ex-wife and I are having a discussion over whether or not our children should get vaccinated. They're both super healthy, varsity athletes, phenomenal condition. They eat right. They don't have no inflammation in their body, no issues whatsoever. And yet she wants us to get the damn vaccine. And the only thing I can come up with now is that it's peer pressure. That's all that's left is peer pressure. There's no science. As everything starts to unravel even more so, there's really no risk management calculation that makes it reasonable to 100% take on a vaccine when you may not get the virus. And even if you do it, it's not going to be a big deal.
Well, let me break it down to you like this. This is how simple it is.
Tell me.
How many kids have died from COVID?
I believe 284 in the United States.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what is this? Like going out to buy a damn Air Jordan? Do you understand how this conformity thing has worked in this America? It literally starts when we're in high school or even in elementary school, really. And you go to school and it's like, oh, you're not wearing the Air Jordans. You're not cool. Go. Oh, Dad, I want the Air Jordans. Get me the Air Jordans. This is such lame ass stuff, man. And for these people, honestly, let them go on their way. Lions got no time for that. There are plenty of sheep in the world.
Yep.
Lions are rare.
Indeed. It's tough when the kids I have a tough time. They're trying to figure out their identity, their status, how they fit in, and they see these material objects and they see a status associated with them. I understand that's a little tough. It comes down to the parents explaining. But I can still remember, dude, I'm a little bit older than you, and I remember when those Jordans came out, and I was like, Dad, buy me those Jordans. And when I didn't get them, I thought the world would end, but guess what? It didn't. And then one day when I got them, I thought the world would be great, and guess what? It wasn't. So,
you asked me a bit about spirituality before.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was very spoiled. I would say, till about 12, 13 years old, it's like whatever I wanted, I got. And I mean, it wasn't like big stuff. We're just talking like toys. Like I was a big G.I. Joe and Star Wars kid. I collected all the Star Wars memorabilia, like the antiques, the 70, 78, 79, 80, those toys that came out. I love them. So I was spoiled on that. I went to India, and man, it's like, I always said, this is the biggest, what kids in America need is just to get reality checks, to see like what real poverty looks like, to understand what it is to just be content with this, with presence, with just being here, with being able to be alive, and then being able to create something. Because if you're dependent on material, as we know, you're never satisfied. If you're, like you said, if you're waiting for that thing, it's like, it's, and this is the problem in America. To this day, these people are still operating on that system. It's like, well, once I get that relationship, everything's going to be good. Once I get the model wife, once I get the model car, once I get the model house. No. What do you bring in this moment to existence? Because if you're not there now, you will not be there in the end. And this is the point, that we have to come into some awareness of self, body, soul, to actually move forward in this paradigm. Otherwise, I believe the transhumanists will check humans out. This mRNA vaccine is only the beginning. It's only the beginning of a whole strategy of moving humans into a more controllable state. And those that are saying, yeah, sign me up today, in 10 years, they may not be human in any capacity that they thought they were.